Good morning or good afternoon and welcome to our policy event, investigating and prosecuting the destruction, looting and illicit trade of cultural property linked to terrorism, hosted by the Permanent Missions of Norway and France, the Counter-Terrorism Committee Executive Directorate, CTED, us, UNESCO and the Sufan Centre. I'm Rachel Atley, the Coordinator of Political Analysis and Research at CTED. And we have an excellent panel for you today. We will now be joined online by Professor Ahmed al-Fatlawi of the University of Kufa. He's an international criminal law expert, and he also is a member of an international humanitarian law committee in the Prime Minister's office. Professor, we're very pleased that you're able to join us online today. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Rachel. Regarding the situation in Iraq, the crimes committed by ISIS and their impact on the cultural heritage and Iraqi society from 2014 to 2015, ISIS controlled more than 4,500 archaeological sites. This included 2 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The current situation in Iraq seems to be the appropriate time to rethink the link between the destruction or loot of cultural heritage and tourism. The link between tourists and the destruction or looting of cultural heritage may be intended on a direct level to spread terror among civilians, as well as to discriminate and then marginalize the targeted ethnicities directly. And the long-term destruction involves eliminating cultural heritage that cannot be looted, such as the destruction of the countless winged bull of this Assyrian deity Lamassu, 2,500 years old. The most dangerous of all is when a terrorist group such as ISIS intends to destroy or loot cultural heritage linked to religious belief, such as a holy book or tangible heritage that contains sacred symbolism. This is exactly what happened in Iraq when ISIS exploited religious and sectarian pluralism to target churches, mosques, and temples belonging to different religions. The Iraqi people still remember what happened in 2006 when Al-Qaeda bombed large parts of holy shrines for Shia Muslims in Samarra, which is a cultural heritage that carries religious symbolism that dates back hundreds of years. Had it not been for the intervention of the religious clerics at that time, and in particular the issuance of a fatwa by the most famous cleric, Grand Ayatollah Ali Sistani, to prohibiting the destruction of cultural property for the sake of revenge. The situation have gotten out of control, and Iraq would have witnessed a civil war with severe consequences. Regarding the phenomenon of looting, stealing, or illicit trade in Iraqi's cultural heritage and its relationship to ISIS, ISIS looted all the antiquities that could be carried. Then they were offered for sale to intermediaries who were usually fully informed of their value. Finally, the final place was auctioned using forged certificates without the auction houses exercising due diligence on obtaining ownership permission for an antiquity thousands of years old. The UN Security Council passed a resolution, we know, 2199 in 2015, which reviews existing UNESCO resolution 1483 to impose a prohibiting on the import of all cultural property originating from Iraq. However, despite this resolution, auction houses display looted antiquities widely. The phenomenon of the illicit trade in Iraqi antiquities goes back decades. In the 1990s, the former regime, through specialized brokers, sold countless antiquities to obtain a financial source due to the sanctions imposed by the Security Council resolutions. These facts challenge the legitimacy of antiquities. For example, what is offered at auctions? In other words, are they antiquities that were smuggled out of Iraq before or after ISIS took control of large parts of Iraq. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most prominent challenges facing the investigation and accountability for crimes of looting and illicit trade in Iraqi antiquities is that ISIS, in coordination with the archaeological experts, excavated archaeological sites that had not yet been discovered at that time. In addition to the fact that hundreds of archaeological sites and artifacts were not registered with the Iraqi authorities, in-houses should not be satisfied with relying on databases of stolen workers of art, such as Interpol, as materials that were excavated illegally and therefore are not documented, will not appear in the database of stolen workers of art, especially since Iraq has more than 10,000 historical sites. Our message today is that escaping investigation into this crime may mean granting immunity to terrorists to destroy or loot another cultural heritage in the future. Also, accepting the transit or sale of Iraqi antiquities looted by ISIS would mean participating in supporting a terrorist entity that financed its operations with bloody antiquities for killing children and women, such as Yazidi women and other women from the Shabak and the Shia Turkmen minorities. The open door policy of looting Iraqi cultural heritage and its link with the terrorism must be stopped, in exchange for not being immune from responsibility, whether state responsibility or individual criminal responsibility. The Iraqi government has now begun to execute several options to sever the link between looting Iraqis and financing globally through international practical cooperation. In particular, after Iraq accessed the Convention on Stolen or Illegally Exported Cultural Objects in 2023. And in this regard, we are looking to international cooperation between Iraq and specialized agencies such as the Counterterrorism Committee, UNESCO, and also we can benefit from the evidence that located by UNITAD to assist in the documentation, investigation, and accountability and recovery of Iraqi antiquities. Ladies and gentlemen, it is crucial to remember the importance of investigating and holding ISIS and individuals who cooperate with them in the transportation, display, and sale of antiquities accountable for their criminal acts. Doing so will ensure that future generations understand our commitment to preserving a heritage that belongs to all of humanity, not just for people of Iraq. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, and I hope you could hear the warm thanks from the room as well.